All right, so let's start with Andreas here, and let's just do some introductions of the individual panel members as we head down the line here.
So, hello everybody, I'm Andrea Crepaldi from Vodafone. I'm sitting in the Fixed Access Center of Excellence, which is a team looking after strategy architecture for the fixed domain for the whole Vodafone group. And I'm in charge of the kind of consumer and connected home area, looking after ACS device management and other stuff like this.
Hi all, I'm Tucker Owens. I work for QA Cafe. I'm a software engineer there working on the CD router platform. I primarily have been focusing on USP, the implementation within CD router. And if you walk right out, you'll find me if you want to come visit me after.
So you can hear me, right?
Yep.
Oh, that was very awkward hearing yourself. So Magnus Olden, CTO of Domos. Also very much interested in getting things standardized and making it possible for third-party services to be deployed on CPs in the home.
Hello, I'm Thomas Steinecke from KAON. We are at the hardware side of this activity, so I run the sales and business development for Germany, Austria, Switzerland in the EMEA region for KAON.
And hello, I'm Gunter Klessinger. I'm a founder and managing director innovation at Axiros, and we did the agent and controller part of this demo we are talking about. And yeah, we have a booth at J20, or you find me at the Broadband World Forum.
Excellent. Thank you guys, and thanks for being on the panel with me today. Before we get started with some questions, I'm just going to kind of do an introductory a bit about USP, just to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page for when we start into the questions. So first, USP is User Services Platform. That's what USP stands for. It's a new remote management and control protocol from the Broadband Forum, and it's basically an evolution of TR69. So there are two main concepts that make up USP. There's a management entity that is responsible for exposing a data model of a device, and that's what we call an agent or a USP agent. And then the other part of it is the management entity that's actually responsible for remotely managing and controlling that agent, and that's what we call a USP controller. So between a USP controller and a USP agent, that's kind of the bedrock of what USP is. So USP has done some really interesting things. You know, as I mentioned, it's an evolution of TR69, but it's gone further and it's made some real big improvements. Specifically, that you can now have multiple message transfer protocols with USP. With TR69, there was just HTTP, and so there were some things that had to be worked around because of the way that it worked. But with USP, we have different transfer protocols for different kind of use cases or scenarios of how you're doing your management. There's also the ability to have multiple USP controllers managing a single USP agent. This is also a little bit different than the way TR69 worked, as in TR69 there was just a single ACS, so everything kind of had to funnel through that one management server. At the USP, we've also made it more efficient, both from a on-the-wire perspective, reducing the package sizes so that it's easier to manage more and more devices. But also, you know, from a messaging perspective, it's more forgiving. So the management server or the USP controller doesn't have to play guessing games about what's implemented in the data model. It's the actual messaging is a lot easier to handle. There's also an always-on communication channel with USP, which is different than there were with TR69. So this gives us the ability to be a little more interactive when we're querying the device and retrieving different kinds of information from it. USP uses the same data model, the device to root data model, as TR69 did, so it makes it easy to migrate from TR69 to USP. And USP 1.1 was just released probably 3-4 weeks ago, and it also added some really new and exciting features. There's a new REST API for interacting with the USP controller. There's also support for the MQTT message transfer protocol. And then for the first time ever, the Broadband Forum's published an Internet of Things data model that allows us to finally jump in and manage the Internet of Things kinds of devices with USP. So that's it for the introduction for USP. We're going to go ahead and get over to some questions for our panelists here. So basically, I've just kind of pulled together a few questions. If we have the time when we get through all those questions, I'll start taking some from the audience. So the first question we have, I'll direct to Andrea. So what are the main challenges as a service provider when it comes to the connected home?
Thanks, John. Okay, I think that in any case, all the sessions this morning has helped us to focus these challenges in a way. Connected home itself is a challenge. This is the experience that all of us has been kind of facing. But if I can summarize the most compelling challenges here is that we have to kind of deal with multiple domains. Device management is probably one. Configuring and managing properly devices in the house is one of the main aspects that we are going to deal with. As the number of devices is increasing dramatically, as we've seen, the variety of devices as well. And properly means that we need to do this more and more in a seamless way, in the simplest way for the user, so in a transparent way, and getting all the proper configuration on time. Real time actually is a key word in this, and not only for management and configuration, but also for assurance and diagnostics. We have seen Magnus' presentation before, so being able to build a kind of a customer-centric view of what is happening in the connected home is another key area, as well as being able to identify the issues that are affecting the customer experience and being able to tackle them. Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, how about we go to Magnus for this one. So what's new in USP that helps third-party services become a reality in the connected home?
Well, USP is the first. It's a user services platform. That just hasn't been there before. TR69 is not that. That's device management. And now you got combined device management and user services platform. So it's a few of these concepts that John already mentioned is the multi-controller part that makes it possible to have different controllers controlling different things, right? So you can have someone like us doing the analytics and QS stuff, and you can have a security company that does something different, that does security. You can have a mesh, kind of like all of these. You can have multiple controllers controlling different things, right? Which is completely new. There are some features that were there in TR69, like software module management and bulk data transfer, that could enable more user services, but because of some of these constraints, it never really happened. But if we can leverage multi-controller architecture with software module management, you can get to a place where you can have third-party services that are much more secure, that are much less risk to deploy, and you can have multiple. And I think we're going to see that, like there's going to be different company that handles security, and a different company handling mesh, and a different company handling other things, IoT, right? And finally, there's a platform to manage all of that, and doing it remotely, which is important as well.
Excellent. Yeah, great answer. Thanks. So now we'll move over to Tucker. So the Broadband Forum recently published a USP compliance test plan. Can you go and give us some details about what's in that test plan and what might be next for that test plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've all heard of the 7-layer OSI model, and USP really just adds a handful more layers on top of all of that. So the test plan really covers all of the entirety of USP, starting at the MTP layer, the message transfer layer. So, we have test cases about the basics of, make sure the WebSockets implementation is good, the STOMP implementation is good, the co-op implementation is good. And, with that, all of the security that can be involved, And then, all sorts of test cases around the USP record layer. So making sure the, senders and the to's and from fields are all lined up and correctly, that the agent does the right thing when something is wrong. So, it's all about the integrity and signature mechanisms built in there. And on top of all of that, at the, the message layer, the part where you get the actual gets and sets, making sure that an agent or controller can properly handle, all of the different message types, get sets, get supported data model, that sort of thing. So for the next round of the conformance test, as John just said, USP 1.1 was recently just released, which adds a whole new set of cool features that I think that is going to be the next thing, which is, adding potentially even test cases around testing the controller using this REST API, certainly adding test cases for MQTT, and all sorts of other things that should be awesome.
Excellent, thanks. Let's move to Thomas. From a CPE vendor perspective, what are the key advantages for having a proper compliance test plan in place?
Got it, yeah. I mean, we come from the very end of the value chain, and we are climbing every day from the hardware, from the set-top box actually where we come from. We have developed a whole range of access products and connected home products. We are supporting actively most of the standards that are needed, and it's still not enough because our customers ask for added value that these devices bring to their business. And our biggest challenge here is the sheer amount of possibilities and choices we have. And that's where the USP kicks in. I think this was the first thing where we said, okay, this is a thing we can bet on because it will allow us to do things over and over without having to reinvent the hot water again. Because at the end of the day, it's not only the choice, but time to market is absolutely crucial. And without a proper automated test methodology, we would never be able to supply hardware to all these guys who need different things, but at the end they all want the same. Okay.
Yeah, great point. Next question to Günther. So the Broadband Forum has an open source project for a USP agent, and the project just posted its second major release on GitHub earlier this week, yesterday I believe. So the question for you is what's your view on open source projects related to standard-based protocols like USP?
Well, I see USP as a must to enable third parties to contribute in the value creation chain. So up to now, the TR69 business was more or less, let's say, a closed show between the operator and the CPE vendor. While looking around at what others do outside of telco, we see application stores, we see third parties with creative ideas being run on top of existing infrastructure, in that case devices or applications or operating systems. We, in the telco world, we have actually way more to offer, but up to now it was closed. And open source software just needs reliability regarding interfaces, so the REST publishment was a big step forward. And so we get closer and closer to that, towards that, I would call it network app store or something, where third parties can make use with their open source software on given infrastructure. I would say USP is absolutely a must-have. Given the setup we have right now, we invested a lot in having manageable infrastructures. We have TR69 in place. Everything is being set up properly. But to now play music on top of that in real time and get applications like that running, like the Domos one we have seen, and there are many others in the Wi-Fi management area where you need absolute real time, and where third parties have all these great ideas. You need an enabling a protocol in place which enables all of that, and that is USP, definitely. What else?
Yep, awesome, thank you. All right, so next question, let's head back to Tucker. So how does the open source USP agent complement the USP compliance test plan and the upcoming USP compliance program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the complement it's actually a threefold benefit. One, I wrote or implemented the conformance plan for CD Router QA Cafe's automated testing product, and with that, I worked back and forth with CommScope as they developed the open source agent, and they were running these conformance tests against their agent and finding issues and sending feedback to us. And so this back and forth process really feeds each other to certainly improve each other's products, where the agent is now a better piece of software, and the conformance tests are tighter. And the third thing is, when issues are discovered, we realize, oh, wait a second, maybe this is actually an issue where it's not clear in the spec of the protocol, and you end up being able to improve the protocol itself in the process of developing these two things simultaneously.
Yeah. Nice. So just kind of a circular relationship, and then also with improving the protocol
Absolutely.
as we go too.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to Andrea. Understand that you have worked together with Axiros, Domos, and KAON to create a demo at the Broadband World Forum Pavilion. Pavilion that's just right outside here. And can you give us a kind of a summary of what's included in that demo?
Yeah, okay, so that came from, so after a long time looking at the industry development following the Broadband Forum over the course of the past months, and so on USB development, etc. So at a certain point, and I was just wondering, but can we prove that this really works?
Yeah.
How it works in a real or in a kind of close to real environment. So this is where the idea of a demo for the Broadband Forum came, and therefore I turned to some of the most innovative and active partners in the industry. It was probably mid-July, late July, so not long time ago.
Yeah.
And I told the guys, let's do something together with Broadband Forum to kind of show and also for us to understand better the potential that can be unleashed by USB. And this is how the idea of the demo came out, and it was also a journey. So we developed the idea together, starting from the concept of simple concept of showing how USB can enable use cases like QED monitoring and quality of experience improvement, as well as service categorization. So this is where Domos kicked in with their solution to kind of showcase these, implementing it on USB, showing that this can be done with the containerized approach. So also the architecture, the inner architecture itself is based on some of the standards that we have been looking at and discussing this morning. And so what you will show there is a quite simple a lean concept, if you want, with two high potential use cases: the QED monitoring prediction and the service categorization, enabled by the underlying engine, if you want, powered by Axiros and KAON and Domos. So we as a service provider were quite inspired and interested in understanding where this could lead, and see actually how fast this has been achieved was also amazing, because really with August and the summer in the middle, all these guys did an amazing work putting this together and make it working. So praise.
Nice. So Magnus, so Andrea mentioned QED. Is there anything else that you can tell us about what QED is, and how much of a role it plays in the demo itself?
Well, yeah, so QED, for those who weren't here, for the first session, Andrea had a keynote. It's a framework for better network quality metrics. Very simply put. We showcase a live view of that, and also estimating how that will be. So doing both probing and estimation. So using, like I talked about earlier, using machine learning to estimate the actual quality of experience delivered, and that can be mapped to application outcomes. It is really a new way and better way of measuring network quality, but it requires, I think, for the demo, it requires real-time applications, and we got that working. I think, we actually started developing this in August, and having tried to implement third-party services on and is actually working on a live CPE with Axiros USB agent and controller. Doing that in 2 months is just, without USP would have taken over a year.
Excellent. Yeah, that seems like a very quick turnaround on that. Gunther, what do you see as the major benefit for using USP in this kind of application as compared to some other protocol?
It's 2 words: real time. It's when you have set up everything, you want to run business applications on top of your infrastructure. Up to now, over the last, decade, we had to become very creative in bending this HTTP-based TR69 transport to being able to, have a set-top box addressable in the home network whenever you want it for a support use case. And even, simple use cases, critical base use cases like that had been proven to be really hard to do if you cannot reach the CPE at any time. And now we have an always-on connection. We have a protocol which supports ACLs, so you have different parties, third parties even, being able to profit from the given network, from a given infrastructure, and create applications on top of that, like shown in the demo. And this always on, this low latency, this no session establishment necessities we have as in the past is for me absolutely vital. It's critical.
Yeah, totally agree, definitely. So the next question we have sent over to Thomas here, and I know this kind of already been hinted at a little bit as far as how long it took to create this demo, but can you kind of go into a little more depth about how difficult it was for creating the or how easy it was to create the demo that we have today?
This is a very tricky question because if there are purchasing guys from our customers in there, I would say it took half a year, and we put 55 engineers on it. But there's no reason to make fun of this at the end of the day. This was super smart, super fast. Depending on whom you ask, he would say, I shipped the box 2 weeks ago.
Actually.
Yeah, the one box that you see out there was shipped 2 weeks ago. So for these guys, 2 weeks. But it's not actually showing all the blood, sweat and tears that went into this in the phases before. And the customer normally tries to pay for the 2 weeks that you spent. That's always like this because he only sees that part, which is actually done at this end. I think we are ourselves positively surprised how fast and smooth this was working. Great partners in any way. And I think you said that you choose the good ones, Thanks for that. And on the other side, the foundation is so good that you know exactly what to do and what works, and then there was no trouble also. It's just organizing it and doing it.
Yeah. Excellent. Nice. So one last question that I have here, and then we'll start taking some from the audience after that. So in the audience, start thinking about some questions. But this one will go out to Gunther. So what do you see as the next steps for moving this demo forward?
Well, this is just, as you said, a first step. I have a few projects right now where the CPE base is still HTTP based TR69, and as said, we have to go creative. We have to relax actually information gathering times, data gathering times to hours ranges, 15 minutes up to an hour, for example, to measure Wi-Fi congestion. And look at Wi-Fi. 15 minutes is not enough to get up to date regarding the actual situation. You need near real time or near real time. You need data flowing in without you having to pull it and having to wait for session establishment all the time. So Wi-Fi for me would be one logical next step. I think the 398 definitions we heard of, they would be applicable even in the field for on-demand Wi-Fi. The user triggers something like a scan and give me the quality information without a real network chamber, but he wants it now. And for this you need For example, also reachability. Other applications I see in InsurTech, insurances, they want to have high reliability regarding sensor data in highly critical applications where they need really security and guaranteed security. And all of that USP can deliver. Also these multi-step workflows where you don't just communicate with one device but have a complex workflow where you get data here and react there. This needs to be easy and simple and linearly writable, while USP enables application developers to do just that and not think about the complexities of an underlying asynchronous transport. So the whole business applications world is open now. We are a standardized protocol, and that is new, and that is something which, in my point of view, enables telcos who don't want vendor lock-ins to go into business applications finally.
Excellent, nice. Okay, I think we have just a few more minutes left. If we want to take a question or two from the audience. Anybody have a question? One? Let me borrow one of these mics here. Thanks, Jeff. And I'm not going to be able to hear the question, so you guys will have to take the question.
Hello.
Oh.
Here.
Yeah.
In the demo, did you had a USP as a management to bring up and destroy containers or orchestrate the applications you put on top? And is there an application orchestrator working on the demo?
So
John?
Yeah, there's actually two demos out there. So there's the one demo that is the Axiros, KAON, Domos, Vodafone. There's also one from myself, CommScope, kind of partially in conjunction with the QA Cafe and Tucker up here. The demo that I have is very much doing software module management as has been defined in the TR, originally defined a TR 157 data model. It breaks things up into the basic concept of an execution environment with deployment units, things that get installed, and then execution units that get started and stopped. So my demo takes that software module management concept and puts it on top of a Docker framework. And so basically the USP controller is acting as the orchestrator. It's the one that's going to do the installs and uninstalls of those deployment units or Docker images in this case. And then starting and stopping the Docker containers as need be.
So adding to that as well, we and several others are working on doing the same thing with LXC and mapping that with a Purple lifecycle management and USP software module management, which really will give you an end-to-end container management that you can do remotely with USP software module management. You can do locally with Purple LCM on LXC containers, which will allow you to constrain memory, CPU, network, etc. But also you can make them unprivileged, and that means you can also constrain data access, security, and a lot more. So we just didn't have time to do it for this demo, but like within the end of the year, we will have done it, doing our application as unprivileged Linux containers managed by Purple LCM and USB software module management.
Yeah, definitely some interesting things happening in that space. Thanks for the question.